So Padma, for somebody who's just maybe watching this program or just first read a book about the Enneagram, what's the kind of next step insofar as progressing with this in terms of the information? Because you were saying earlier, it's actually quite hard to find your own Enneagram type.
Well, sometimes it's not. For some people it's very obvious. Some people are very obvious to others, because often we refer to the Enneagram as a mirror that will reveal your blind spot. So oftentimes people don't see it themselves, but everybody around them sees it very clearly.
So you were saying originally you thought you were the number one,
Yeah.
but you found out later you were number 4.
Yeah, which was very obvious then, once that was revealed.
So did someone point that out to you? Or
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I had teachers who pointed that out.
Yeah.
And then it was like, whoa, yeah, of course, that's what's running, and how could I not see that?
And then what was the next step for you? You found out you were Enneagram type number 4. And then how did you progress and use that information on a personal level?
Well, first of all, it was hugely useful to know, whoa, look at that, it's all here in the book already. So it's not really even a personal story, it's like, it's so predictable, so obvious how that just can't really seriously be taken personally anymore, and how that can't really be me.
That's a very interesting statement. So it's not a personal story.
Yeah.
And that's, in a way, if you really take the meaning of that, that's incredibly helpful, because it means that whatever the problem is, it's not really a personal problem.
That's right.
It's just a fixation. It's just a veil. It's just something covering up what you're really feeling.
It's a misidentification.
Misidentification, yes.
It's a misidentification, and it's so hugely useful to know about the misidentification, so that can help to find out who you truly are then, and to discover the freedom of that when you're not fixated in these patterns that are just predictable, fixated patterns of perceiving, or rather filtering the perception, I should say, and interpreting and reacting.
Do you want to give a couple of examples? You don't have to go into great detail, but examples about what you found out about the number 4 and how you were able to deal with that on a personal level?
Yeah. So, well, definitely what's very, very obvious about the 4 fixation is that there is an identification, and even we could say an addiction to suffering.
Right.
And that was one of the main keys, I would say, to discover that, how that was running in me. And at some point, of course, also what was required was the willingness to see that, to be honest about that, and to take responsibility. Because at some point I really got to see how I was producing my own suffering, and how there was some kind of a choice.
So you were perpetuating the situation as it existed.
Well, and dramatizing it.
Which is even worse in a way.
Yeah, there was a real dramatizing of it, and getting other people involved even, like getting my partner to participate in the suffering that I was setting up, And so that was really, really important to see that and to notice, whoa, this is how I am doing that.
And I guess part of your trick was, I don't know, just may not be that part of your trick was that if they didn't participate in the suffering, they didn't really love you. I guess that's part of the equation as well.
Yeah, and they didn't really love me anyway. They couldn't ever love me enough. So there was no chance. I mean, it's just so obvious that in this fixation, there's just no chance to be happy and at peace, ultimately, Because even if they overwhelmed me with love, it's like the fixation would still come up and say, oh, well, but really? Or how about this? How about that? And what else is wrong with me? And, nagging and finding some way of proving that you didn't love me enough, or not really when I was this nasty, or...
Is this extraordinary? I'm just thinking how extraordinary the whole thing is, that basically you've got these... It's almost like you've got these two entities trying to relate to each other, and they're both really fake constructs that don't really have any tangible reality. They're trying to get on, and it's no wonder people have so many arguments and misunderstandings.
And the tragedy is that it's really facade versus facade. And of course, behind that, in all of us, there's this longing for true intimacy, for true connection and love, and also for really being seen as who we really are. you know, but we keep on presenting all these masks.
Yes.
And we keep on defending against love and intimacy, actually, because we're at the same time we're longing for it, but we're also so afraid of it. Because in a way, actually, that too is the end of the story. You know, if you really let love in, it's like you can't continue the fixation and let love in fully, because because the fixation is all ways of not really fully experiencing what you're experiencing, but keeping up a certain structure and defenses against reality, against life.
But you know, a lot of people are going to say, well, everyone's running around with their fixations. It's pretty hard to be in the world and to get on with my family and please my boss and get get to work and all the dramas that can involve sometimes. You know, you've got to be a bit of a survivor and push for yourself. And this is all very well feeling love for everybody, but it's not very practical.
It is. It's the most practical I have found, because I can tell you that my life really didn't work. I mean, okay, now you can say, well, that's obvious for a 4, and there are other structures that seem to work better, that seem to get along better. And so, yes, that's true, that oftentimes for 3s or 8s or 7s that seem to have a happier life, you know, that you don't find as many of those often in the deeper spiritual work, you know, that they may not be as acutely interested or urged to wake up or out of this dream or fixation. But also for them, you know, at some point you notice that, first of all, even if you do survive, it's like, what's the price you pay for that, you know? Because oftentimes then, at least once there is a certain level of maturity, you see that you're really surviving at the expense of truly living, of really being available to live life fully and openly. And it's like, what's the point of surviving if you can't live?
Well, no, I understand, and I think it gets to a situation for everybody that either through desperation, i.e. life is just doesn't work and you don't want to go on the way it is, or life maybe gives you an illness or something, or gives you a social situation like your partner, your marriage breaks up, or lose your job or whatever, and you're really faced with looking at something. You have to look at something in a new way. Unfortunately, it often takes that. I know for myself, it has been things that have happened that are quite dramatic to me. That's made me look deeper, and through that, looking inside and finding a new way of going forward, if you like. Then some of that's opened doors, but it's not something that. It's interesting, this thing about how the human being works, because we're not always very intelligent, I have to say, in how we approach things. We need a kick, don't we, or a push to sometimes spur us on. So we're trying to keep this program relatively basic for people that don't necessarily know too much about the Enneagram. So, okay, you found out what your Enneagram type is, and you, as you explained, you understand, well, it's a fixation to a degree, it's a construct, and you start to look inside. But it's quite a process, isn't it? Because there's always this feeling that, oh, I really need to keep this and I really need to do that, and it's there's people talk about letting go of things, but it's not as easy to do as it's made out to be. It's easy to say, well, I should let go of this, but it has consequences, doesn't it?
It does, yes. And holding on has consequences.
That's true too, yeah.
So it's intelligent to at some point be honest and tell the truth about that too, you know? Sometimes I really recommend people to really take stock, so to say, you know, and to see, okay, you know, what is it getting you? Is it really working? Is it really getting you what you truly want? If you're happy and fulfilled and at peace, great, carry on, you know? But if you're not, tell the truth if it's really working and what the prices you're paying and if it's worthwhile, you know? And then maybe it's time to stop and let go of a really rotten investment, you know?
So the construct's a pretty rotten investment. Yes.
Yeah, well, I would say so. Didn't work for me anyway, and nobody I see it really works. I haven't found anybody for whom it's really, in the long run, you know, happy and fulfilling and giving them what they truly want.